Welcome back and hello if you're new. So today I'm going to be talking about a band that I've somewhat slept on for quite some time, which in hindsight I feel I may have missed out on some absolutely fantastic material. Following their 2014 effort, one of the most emotionally raw performances of 2018 as Yob returned with Our Raw Heart. Our Raw Heart wasn't necessarily the standard run-of-the-mill style of album because, as frontman, Mike would suffer with acute diverticulitis. This was a huge ordeal for the frontman and for the band, you could argue. After the operation had finished and thankfully was very successful, they found out that in order to ground the frontman, they were playing Yob in the actual operating theatre. Our Raw Heart is a journey, trying to understand the tranquil yet incredibly ominous feeling. It very much has this idea of acceptance of, potentially dying. One of the biggest things about Our Raw Heart is there is this element of inherent sadness throughout the record. Original Face's main riff, for example, almost sounds like the sadness that was in early Mastodon style Remission, with this very slow, trudging, sludgy kind of guitar riffs. But ironically, it's arguably one of the most energetic tracks on the record. A Blaze opens up the album, and again, this sense of forlorn, slight melancholy is with you from the word go, and it almost kind of hangs over you like a dark cloud. You can imagine all of the thematic ideas that were put into this and how this was created after the frontman's experience. And similarly, this sense of anguish is really felt in the vocals. For example, the verse section of A Blaze really sounds like, this person is lost and they need help, and they need help to try and find themselves again. However, just as much as the record may be inherently sad, there's also a strange amount of real beauty to it. Despite the heaviness, there's a welcome respite in Beauty of Fallen Leaves, the 16-minute track, which really kind of transcends what is necessarily just music. Beauty of Fallen Leaves shows that although Yob may appear to be impenetrable, they are actually potentially at one of their most vulnerable points here. It's a fantastic 16-minute song which has all of these really kind of washing over waves of clean guitar, but also distorted guitar. It's like slight distorted guitar. It's potentially the most relaxing song on the album. Because of doom metal's characteristics, it does take on this almost mantra-like vibe to it, and the chorus of the screen allows for these small cracks of melody to come in where the guitars go onto the high E strings, and it brings this sense of brightness into what is an incredibly dark track. The screen is a perfect encapsulation of when Yob really get to that heavy point, and the track itself is reliant on this triplet style rhythm, and it's so monotonous but in a good way that it makes you feel as though you're almost going to slip out of time, and especially with listening to headphones, and it really makes you feel very claustrophobic and really quite closed in. But again, as much as there is all this beauty and melancholy, there's a real ominous sense to the record. For example, the way that Lungs Reach begins with this incredibly malevolent atmosphere, and it's very unpredictable as well. In Reverie opens with this almost kind of sub-bass, which kind of takes you by surprise when the band really kind of like kick into everything. And again, on the screen, where the singer has this massive sort of bridge section where he's just like, rah. But I think one of the biggest things is that it without sounding all hippie-ish, it does kind of it does really take you on a somewhat spiritual journey listening to this record. The prime example of that is the final title track, Our Raw Heart, which begins with this bed of acoustic guitar. Before slowly being layered on by distortion. And the vocals come in, and for quite a while you enter this sort of trance-like state where the way that the cymbals sound almost kind of splash over you, like you were sort of lost at sea. I know this sounds really cheesy, but if you really think about this when you're listening to the record, it really does come through. We're then led into this outro section of the song where the band begin to layer even more guitar melodies, very slow harmonies. And it's interesting because, you know, there is this element of sadness, but yet there's an element of resolve, that you know, that there is a triumph in this. And it's almost as though the band are breathing a sigh of relief and, you know, they're out of the eye of the storm. In terms of the negatives, I would say if you're not a massive Doom fan, this could be a bit of a lengthy one for you to undertake. You know, there are tracks which are about 13 minutes long, 16 minutes long, and there could be an element that, you know, just because it is repetition, that it could get somewhat boring. In terms of the artwork does represent this kind of psychedelia idea that the band have been going for, and does create this weird sort of world that you inhabit when you listen to the album. I think that's one of the biggest things, is that you go off into somewhere else when you listen to Yob. And I've heard that from a lot of different people, but I've never actually given it a chance myself, so more fool me. Following the ordeal that Scheidt went through, the band have come out through the eye of the storm. This is a record that, you know, details struggle and loss and sadness, but also triumphs over adversity, it's an absolute roller coaster of an emotional record. However, the band haven't forgotten that ridiculously crushing sound that they've adopted throughout all of these years. So for that reason, I'm going to give it a 5 out of 5. The brand new album is out June 8th via Relapse Records, and you can pre-order it right underneath me. Thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like and subscribe button. Make sure to check out my Apocalyptic Anniversary series over on Metal Sucks. Drop a comment, and I'll see you guys next week for another review.